Hey guys, this is Woodshop Junkies, and today I'm going to be adding a power socket to my bench top in an effort to get a handle on the extension cord situation in my shop. You see, though I'm planning an entirely new power layout for my shop, I currently only have one power socket at my disposal. So the idea is to run a single power cord or extension cord to my workbench and then distribute it to all the points where I may need it, while obviously keeping current carrying capacity and load requirements in mind. One of those power points I want to add to my bench top over here, like I mentioned in my bench build video, but I want to do it in a way that won't compromise my work surface. This means that I need to install the power socket underneath the bench top, but for the sake of convenience I want to be able to move it to above the work surface for unobstructed access. To do this, I'm going to install this multi-plug on a spring-loaded slide. So to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is assemble the mount for the multi-plug. Alright, so this is pretty much the mounting bracket and where I want to install it. To give it the ability to move below and above the workbench, I'm going to add these rail runners to it, which is the shortest ones I could find. As for the orientation of the socket on top of the mounting bracket, I placed it at a 45-degree angle for two reasons. Firstly, usability, because it places the socket more or less perpendicular to my arm. Secondly, it allows for less downwards pressure when plugging something into the socket. This is important because the downwards force would be applied against the mechanism or spring that is keeping the bracket above the work surface. Right, so that's the mounting bracket finished with the rail runners, but before I can add it to my bench, I first need to make the cutout. Now, for those of you that watch my bench build series, you would recognize this method of making a cutout. For those of you that haven't, I like to mark my cutouts from the bottom so I can use the side panels as a reference. I also install these planks on the border of the cutout. This allows me to use a jigsaw to cut slightly in from where the edge is supposed to be. I can then use a flush trim bit on my router for a nice clean edge. Okay guys, so that's the cutout made. Now it's time to fit the socket mounting. Okay, so this is the slide installed now. Before I add the gas spring or the gas strut, I'm going to make a cover for this area to conceal the adapter and complete the bench when the adapter is stored. Okay guys, so this is the lid installed, and I realized the hinges don't look fantastic, but they were the only ones in my immediate marketplace that were able to accommodate the design. You see, I needed the ability to install them flush with the bench top, but maybe more importantly, I needed the ability to offset the pivot on the hinge with relation to the edge on the lid. The reason for this will hopefully be making sense as I finish up the project, which I'm going to be doing now by installing this latch on the lid here. Because the slide is going to apply an upwards force due to the gas spring, I'm hoping that by pushing this slide would automatically move into its working position. I then simply want to close the lid to put it back into its stored position, but at the moment, as you can see, that's not possible. I'm hoping that I can solve this dilemma simply by installing push blocks on the side of the lid here. Okay, so the final step now is to install the gas strut and to see if the idea actually works. Alright, so this is the gas strut I'm going to be using. It's the smallest one I could find. Full extent is about 300 mils and it's got more or less 100 millimeter stroke. It's about 50 newtons, which might still be a bit too strong, but if it is, I can just add extra weight onto the slide or maybe an opposing tension spring. Okay, so the project is finished and it is not working. As you can see, it's not closing. Largely due to a lack of foresight on my part, as I didn't account for the play on the rail runners which allow for this movement. So now when you try to close it, because there's a force being applied from the bottom from the gas strut, the slide moves forward and jams up against the front of the cutout. Now I did come up with a very quick temporary quick fix solution, which is basically mounting a bearing on a block like this, and I will now be mounting it on the underside of the bench like this in the hopes of keeping the slide in its back position, and hopefully that will work. And that is it for this project. Nice and simple, and hopefully it will help me get a handle on the extension cord situation in my shop. Now there are a few things that I'm going to be looking at changing, like the gas strut, which is way too strong, and also the hinges, but for now the design or the project is working and I am able to use it. So I would love to hear from you guys, or what your input is on this project. Do you think it is a useful addition to the shop, or do you think it's completely overkill and unnecessary? And that is that for this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do that now so you don't miss out on our future videos. And if you are a South African viewer, you should definitely stick around, because we might have some very exciting news coming up in the very near future. Remember, if you want to support the channel, you can check out our merch store. The link will be down below. But for now, as always, thank you so much for watching. Till next time, cheers.